Thank you. That's you. Somebody's calling me. So came on. You got all the political politicians asking for money. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. This is a meeting of the Bunk County Board of Elections for Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. It's good to see you all here for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is one more demonstration of how deeply our community cares about the electoral process. So I want to thank you all for being here and being part of this demonstration. I'm getting some goosebumps seeing y'all, and it feels real good. We do have a huge agenda today. But one thing I will remind everyone is that we have a 7:30 p.m. curfew in the city right now. So regardless of where we are on our agenda, we are going to adjourn at about 7 p.m. so that everybody has an opportunity to get home safely and without any red and blue lights flashing behind their cars. So we will start off first with approval of the agenda. And I will remind everyone that the fifth member of our board, Sally Stein, is participating virtually. She's out of town. She's going to be back with us next week. Looking forward to that. But she's listening in. She's not able to speak and have us hear her, but she can listen to.
Oh, yes, I can.
Oh, there she is. All right, Sally. Thank you, Sally. It's great
I'll put
having
back
you on
on
board.
you.
All right,
Thanks.
if everyone's had a chance to review the agenda, we will approve it without objection. And hearing none, the agenda is approved, except for one thing. I'm going to need to strike item number 2. We're not going to review the minutes of the last meeting. We're going to wait a week for that. We've got other things to do today. And let's move on to the big one. I mean, there's so many big ones today. Machine testing, absentee. Well, let's hear some office updates. Is there anything new going on around here, Director Duncan?
I definitely echo Jake's sentiment about you all being here. We have some important work to do. We've got a hill to climb, and we are climbing it. So I'm going to give you an update on how things have been going, and then talk about how this meeting will function today. So, of course, Friday we had a major event in our county. Saturday, I was able to make it here to this building from my home where I live in the River Arts District. And one other person was here. In that evening, I went to the EOC and checked in there. And then on Sunday, I came back to the office, and there were a few more people here. We started working to contact each other, made sure that we were really focusing on everyone's basic needs, made sure that people had food and water, places to stay, and that really kind of stabilized people, and we were able to start moving forward, where even just on Monday we caught up with the absentee ballots. We made a plan for continuing our logic and accuracy testing. We started to think about how we were going to do site assessments, all of this very early. We've had help from other county departments, have been reassigned to us to help support us. On Thursday, we were finally able to account for all of our staff, and that was a huge relief to me. Steve Aceto was our last holdout. I was very happy to hear from him. We've been in communication with the state board. There was a resolution passed on Monday that has given us some flexibility on things. We'll go through that. That'll be part of our meeting today. And then county management has also been very supportive and working. One of our challenges is going to be getting this information out to people under limited communication availability, and so we're working on that. You can be very, very proud of this team. We've always been proud of this team, but you can be very, very proud of this team. They came together. They took care of each other. They continue to take care of each other. We have water stations and food sharing here at the office, making sure that people have places to stay, because there were people who had their homes damaged. But because of that, we've been able to get to work, and I'm 100% confident that we will have our early voting start on next week on October 17th, and Election Day will happen on Election Day. Yesterday, I was able to join the county media briefing and touch base with our community on that. And I'll do that again as we get solid information about things. Obviously, we should have that come out of this meeting today. I very much thank the media for their patience and attention on this, because it's important that we get this information out to people. So in this meeting, I want us to accomplish reviewing the State Board of Elections resolution. Then we will go through the early voting plan proposal. I really want to make sure that we spend time discussing that, making sure that we're clear on what we want to do there, and all come together to make a plan for that. We will then move to the warehouse, so that's physically moving over to the warehouse to do our logic and accuracy testing for the early voting machines. Then we'll come back to this location and start on absentees if time allows. I know that the chairman would like to adjourn the meeting by 7 to make sure that we abide by the city's curfew. If we don't have absentees complete by then, we would come back. And that was built into our agenda. So we would come back and do that at 3:30 tomorrow.
Is the board going to carpool over there?
We can
Just
carpool.
because of parking issues over there?
We can absolutely do that. Great question. Okay, so we can, I want to go through the resolution first, but I also want to make sure that once we get to the early voting plan, we do have Kurt Euler here. So if we want to, we have a draft resolution, which we'll give to you when we get to there. If we need to make adjustments, we can do that quickly at this meeting. So we have all of the tools that we need to move forward today. Are there any questions before I move on to reviewing the state board's resolution? Do you all have a copy in front of you? Great. Okay, so this resolution was passed on Monday. They did gather input from the counties, and I was part of that meeting, so we had a voice in that. You can see there are multiple pages of whereases. If you, which are very good. If you flip to page 3, that's where we start looking at the allowances that the state board has given. For early voting in section 1, the big thing there is transferring the authority to the county boards for the affected counties to make the early voting changes. And that's very good for us because we need to be able to act fast. So making that decision here at the county level is very helpful. So we have the authority, and I am hoping that we are able to come to a decision today. We are able to add or change sites. We can also change the days and hours that early voting is open. If you look at C there, it says extending or reducing the hours that any site is open on any days within the established voting period. The voting period does still end on Saturday at 3 o'clock. Verified that with the state board. So those are some like broad flexibilities there.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Aceto?
Speak briefly to that. I understand that the priority remains making all feasible attempts to maintain existing sites availability. So we'll need to make an effort to move past the inertia and do everything that all feasible attempts to make certain that our existing sites are made usable. And of course, we'll look forward to the assistance of the county and state emergency management in doing so, because that's also part of this resolution. Thank you.
Yes, and we will discuss the kind of the particulars for our early voting sites when we get to the early voting, our proposal.
Director, is this something we're gonna have to decide now, or is this gonna be an ongoing, we'll be able to change it as things change on the ground?
As far as the early voting plan,
Yeah.
I am hoping that we can come to a conclusion today, because we need to start letting our movers know where to move the equipment, tell our poll workers what locations that they will be at, start telling the public,
Yeah.
The changes, so.
I was just thinking with regard to our trying the best to keep those sites we had already publicized open.
Yes.
But then, do we still have the ability to make those changes
Later.
should something improve?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
That's all I wanted to know.
All right. So then, election day polling locations. So at the election day polling locations, there is a similar flexibility in the being able to combine precincts if we need it. We still need to assess our election day locations. So we know a lot about early voting, and we'll talk about that today. Election day, we need time still to assess those locations. There are 80 of them in Buncombe County, and we suspect that we will not have enough poll workers to staff that many sites. So that is where that first section is about being able to transfer to precincts. It also talks about being in another county. I don't think that that's something that our county will need to do. We're a big county. We have lots of locations, and so I don't think we'll need to do that. But that is part of the flexibility. The out of precinct voting places. So if we needed to vote to change a voting location out of the precinct, that is allowed. And then combining precincts, so having 2 precincts at one location is also allowed.
This also says we can have more than one voting site in a precinct.
That's correct, yes. The next section is about notice. So we will need to mail all of the affected voters. The state can support us on that. And then making sure that local media, chairs, political parties, all of that know to help us be able to get out that information.
So does a notice by mail mean each voter in a affected precinct gets noticed by mail?
Correct.
And so that's for changes in election day voting locations,
right.
not early voting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, we would, of course, do notice by other methods, too. So radio has been very effective in Buncombe County, and making sure that this gets in a briefing. We would really make sure that we're communicating in every way that we know possible. The next section is about poll worker recruitment and assignment. So this would allow to appoint election officials and early voting officials from other North Carolina counties. Well, again, we're a big county. We have a lot of poll workers. We haven't been able to assess how many poll workers for election day we have. So we haven't crossed that bridge yet, but that's there for us. And then having them be out of precinct, giving that flexibility too. And we've had a lot of poll workers for election day appointed. We have not trained them. We're starting that. We're just starting that training. And how we are doing it is going to those poll workers who have the training signed up first and confirming those as we go. And we've just begun that. We're going to know a lot more in the coming few days about election day. There's another section about flexibility on doing replacements for vacancies. So the chair will have that authority. We kind of do this already with our backup poll workers, but giving the ability to appoint emergency assistants and assign them to a precinct. And then reassigning poll workers, that's a big one for us. So taking the poll workers that we already have, that already have experience, that are available, and being able to move them around. So they might not be in the place that they were originally appointed to. It also gives the authority for the county boards to administer the oath for any new poll workers by electronic means or over the telephone. We are still planning on doing in-person training, so that we should be okay there. And then it has a section on how we notice, how we make sure those people know that they are appointed officials. The next section is on absentee ballot processing. The first section is about who can turn in the absentee request form. So the board, which is referring to our office, can provide the voter or the voter's near relative with the absentee ballot envelope at the office location. So that means that we will be able to give ballots at our office. That's a change from how we normally do it, which is always putting them in the mail. So we'll be able to issue over the counter.
Director Duncan, how soon do you expect to implement that change?
I think it's just in here. We're doing it now. We're able to do it now.
You're doing counter
We're able to
service
do it now.
absentees?
Yes.
Wow. That's a very, very quick turnaround on that. Thank you.
Yes. In the same vein, we were able to spoil and also reissue if needed and cure. So those are things that we hear about a lot in the board meetings. So they'll be able to do that at our office as well. We have to make sure that we're keeping a log of all of these things, but that is allowable. The next one, C, we are able to accept absentee ballots on election day. So previously it was at our office and at early voting locations, but not at election day locations. This allows for those ballots to be accepted at election locations, election day locations. The next one is that the ballots can also be delivered to other county boards of elections in the state. So a voter who has evacuated, is in another county, has their ballot there, they can return that ballot to another county office, and they'll return that to us for processing. So the next section is just the flip side of the coin. So this one is from the voter's perspective. And it just clearly lays out that you can come to the office, receive a ballot, and that you need to return it still by election day at 7:30 p.m. And you can do that at our office at early voting locations, at election day locations, and at other county boards of elections. The next section is on our multi-partisan assistance teams. So those are our MAT teams. Those are the people that assist people in assisted living facilities. This allows us to appoint MAT members from other North Carolina counties if we need that. It also adds unaffiliated, more flexibility with unaffiliated voters in that provision. And then the biggest thing that I think you'll be interested in, which we may or may not want to have a discussion on now, if we anticipate that we are doing absentee tomorrow, it might be a better discussion for tomorrow because we have a lot on the agenda. But it allows us, it expands that reach from the assisted living facilities to disaster relief facilities. So we could have MAT teams at those locations if we would like.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Aceto?
my understanding is that if we do expand MAT teams, that our use of unaffiliated and minority party registered MAT team members requires that the board approve them, which was not the case before. Is that correct?
MAT members are approved by the board, they're approved by the board by the party that they're affiliated with. If they're unaffiliated, then the whole board approves.
Okay, and that's a change if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's actually status quo. When we've done MAT appointments, and recently, they've all been party members. But in the past, we've had some unaffiliated, and all 5 board members sign off on that. Standard.
I'm just curious how the memo says disaster shelters and other places where disaster relief is provided to the general public is a place where MAT teams can go. How do they determine those facilities?
I think
Or is that
that-
up for discussion?
I think that we would need to decide that. We would need to define that. The next 2 sections are more internal. I'm worried about spilling this water. So this allows other offices, other elections offices to help us if needed. So a place that I think that we could use help is sending those mailings out. But besides, well, we'll see as you know, as we evolve. We're getting a lot of support from our county. We're having county reassignments here, and that's really fantastic because a lot of our work is in-person work. But these mailings can be done in other locations, so we might want to reach out for help in that way. And then the last section was just formalizing, stating that the State Board of Elections is working with emergency management to help us get the things we need. And as we start discussing the early voting plan and eventually get to what we're going to do for Election Day, you'll see there are some requests that we need. We've already made requests, and we'll share those with you as we let you know what our idea for the early voting plan is. Are there any questions on the resolution?
Do you know who your liaison is?
Mr.
with the state
Aceto?
board?
Could you use a mic,
Wait,
please?
Do
It's,
you
uh,
know who your liaison is with the state board yet?
Through,
That last paragraph, executive director shall designate, state board executive director shall designate a liaison to each of the affected county boards.
I've been assuming that that's John Nose, but I can ask for that, like that form of, have that formalized.
Okay, just if there's any holdup on that, we, some of us might want to follow up.
Got it. Thank you. This mic is really fun. Okay.
I mean, we need a longer cord on that.
I think it got tied around the leg of the table. Okay, so are we good on that? Do we want to move to early voting plan? I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
I-
what most people are interested here.
I think that's the way to go, and I like your idea of having further discussions about disaster relief centers when time permits.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, this, if it turns out that there are other things that we think that we need from the State Board of Elections, this does not have to be the only resolution that comes out of that board. If there are things that we think we need, we ask. And Karen Brinson Bell, the executive director of the state, is very clear on that.
Okay.
They will support us.
Okay. 3-day grace on absentee ballots.
Moving on to early voting plan. So Negi is going to give details on the overall plan. She has a PowerPoint and we have some visuals. You might imagine that we had to do this very quickly. So we've done a lot of data gathering, but it's a little bit messy.
Everything's messy. right?
Everything's messy right now. We really want this to be a discussion, so make sure that you're asking questions. We'll answer everything. I really want to spend time on this and make sure that we move forward in the direction that we want, have a solid plan so that we can start letting voters know the things that they need to do to be able to vote early. So our original plan had 14 locations. We were able to assess those, and actually most of those are okay. 2 of them are fire stations, and they are very understandably declining to be early voting locations. We did have a very big early voting plan, and so we're still going to have a lot of hours. Again, Negi will go over our proposal for that. The poll workers, we don't have enough to staff all 14 sites, but we do have a lot of workers. A lot of early voting workers are saying yes. It is absolutely amazing. Yesterday, at the beginning of today, we had about a third of them confirmed. We have over half of them confirmed now. So I think that we are going to be okay with early voting workers. And wonderfully, they are already trained. So at this point, we just need to tell them where to go. We, of course, have some restrictions that we need to make sure that we're paying attention to. That, namely, is power, water, and we have city curfew. So we're going to have to do the best we can with the information that we have now. And we need to remember that the election officials, us, and the poll workers, we are all voters too. We are all going through the same things that everyone else is. We are all affected by power. Everyone saw the porta potty out. We are lucky that we have power. That is not the case for everyone. So I really want us to make sure that we're taking that into account when we're looking at the early voting plan too. People driving in the dark, people having to get up in the morning, all of those things. So with that, I will hand it over to Negi Fox. She'll go through our presentation, and then we can have as much of discussion as needed to come to a plan.
Thank you, Director Duncan, and thank you, Deputy Director Fox. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to know, these folks have been working in here every day since that storm, except for the Sundays. Well, actually, the first Sunday they were in here too.
Yeah.
It is incredible what they have accomplished. Now, let's not lose sight of the fact that if this facility did not have power and internet,
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it.
Thank you, Jake. I did not mention that. So when I came into the office and saw that there were power, what a relief. The next thing I did was check the warehouse with all of our equipment. Yep, and it is just fine too. Same thing, no power, no water, but it does have power and it's dry. We have a third location where all of the early voting equipment is. That's a much older building. It's on the top floor. When I drove by it on Thursday night, there was a 30-foot waterfall off the top of the roof. I was not sure, and it's fine. It's dry. So all the early voting equipment is fine. So our operating facilities are okay.
Mother Nature just wanted to give us a challenge, that's all.
Yes, so Kurt is mentioning too, you know, it's really difficult to get out to these sites, right? And our general services team prioritized those early voting sites, and they went out there and gave us the intel that we have. The information that we're presenting to you today is because they went out there and got it for us and prioritized that for early voting. So thank you for that. Deeply thank for that.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier in the meeting how other departments are pitching in to help out. There's been folks from other departments here doing duplicating. We've gotten a lot of overseas and military ballots, and it's just great to see the teamwork, the collaboration happening here to keep the community moving forward, doing what we do. It's really heartening. I love coming downtown every day. So,
Ready?
Deputy Director Fox, I do believe it's time for the big reveal.
Woo! All right, so back again. Woohoo! All right, so we've wanted to start slow and just kind of see where we were at and where we're heading. But so this is our plan to amend the early voting implementation plan. In the next slide, you'll just remind you of our previous plan, or what we approved back in May. We approved 14 sites, weekdays, the 8 to 7:30, which was the mandate. Weekend hours was up to the board, and the board approved the 2 Saturdays, 1 Sunday from 10 to 3, and the last Saturday, the 8 to 3 is mandated. So we obviously are meeting that mandate. This is our original plan as of May 2024 when this board approved that plan. Okay, so this past, I don't know what day it is, Tuesday, last week, weekend, whatever, we've been looking at all of our sites, and in our next slide, you'll see some of the criteria, kind of how we prioritized, how we thought about the sites that we have available. First thing, are they available? Is the building usable? Is there damage? Is there flooding? That was our first criteria. Then we looked at accessibility. Are people still going to be able to get there? Are there road closures nearby? Are there, is that going to be a hindrance for folks? Obviously, power and water. A lot of our sites, fortunately, power has been coming back, but water, as we all know, is still an issue in most of these. So that is something that we considered. Also, network and internet availability. We need to be able to be connected. Our workers are there for 2.5 weeks. We provide them with cell phones. They can email us, and so having network is something that's very important. If not, how do we have an alternative to provide that to them? So we've looked at that. We've also looked at some of the sites. Some of the sites that we initially had on our list are being used for recovery, still being used for distribution centers. Some we can combine, but some their role is too big for us to combine, and they've asked us not to be there. So, and I will mention who those are. Proximity to another site. We also look like, what could we consolidate? What could be nearby that we might be able to, if that site's not available, what can we offer that could still, meet our needs? And then past turnout levels. We still want to make sure that we're using the sites that we've used in the past, consistency, and that they've proven to show high level of turnout based on the election. So we looked at that as well. So with these things in mind, if you'll go to the next slide, we also, as far as the hour of operations, what we're proposing today, we looked at our current the curfew that we have. The lack of power, water. The average age of our poll workers is 70 and plus. Auditing after we close. So, voting might stop at a certain time, but we're not done as workers there. There's auditing that's to happen. We have to lock up. We have to account for everything. And then things have to come back to us. So there is additional time that needs to happen after we close. And then uniformity. We really wanted to see how can we keep uniformity across the board So when someone is telling someone next door or a neighbor or something, they can just say, hey, it's every day, and these are our hours, you know? And then that hopefully will keep it nice and simple and clear and approachable for all. We also looked at the peak times, so we compared several elections in this graph, and we looked at the peak times, and basically it's from 9, and then you can see that 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, those are when we see the most voters come out. And so we obviously want to make sure that we have voting times during those times, and so we've tried to do that as well. Okay, and the next slide is our proposal. So we are proposing 10 early voting sites. So that would be, two of those sites were fire stations, and they've asked us not to use them. Again, for they're still, one of them was in Swannanoa. I don't know if you all heard about Swannanoa, but Swannanoa was very hard hit. That station it's a emergency operations center. It's an all kind of center, and so they've asked us not to use it to make it available for continue that. The dates of early voting are still the same, October 17. We are proposing weekdays and weekends across the board. We're going to be open every Saturday, every Sunday. Before, we only had one Sunday. We're opening both Sundays, both Saturdays, and we're going to be open from 9 to 5. Before, it was 10 to 3. So we're proposing across the board, weekends and weekdays and weekends. And then on the last Saturday, that is, we have to stop at 3. So that is not by our choosing. That is still the procedure. So we are still opening at 9, but we would stop at 3 like we normally would have anyways. So this is what we're proposing. In the next slide,
Can I
go ahead,
pause
go back.
there?
Yeah.
I think early voting ends November 2nd.
It does.
Yeah.
On that slide, it has November 1st.
I have it the last Saturday, November 2nd. Okay.
Oh,
I was just trying to make sure that people knew that from the 17th to the 9 to 5.
okay, just that first one, 10 early voting sites, October 17th through
Okay.
November 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to make sure that we're clear.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. We are open through the 2nd, which is a Saturday, and the hours will be finished a little bit sooner than later. Okay. On the next slide, we have the sites that we are proposing to continue, and all of these were on our list previously. Black Mountain Library. That community also was very hard hit, and we really feel the importance of being there to provide voting for those folks, because we will not have that Bee Tree fire station. So folks there could either go to Black Mountain or they could go to the East Asheville Library. They will have, two choices, obviously, depending on where they are, which one will be closer. The East Asheville Library is still available. That's off Tuttle Road. That's, towards the VA hospital. The Inca Candler Library, that's a nice large voting location. We would still open that one. Fairview was another hard-hit community. We've got lots of people out there that roads have washed, bridges have gone, so we wanted to make sure we were there as well, so people didn't have to travel too far to vote. The Lester Community Center is ready to go too. They are open with power and they have a well, so they got water. And they're ready for us to be there as well. The South Buncombe Library, that's another site. They also have power and water, believe it or not. And so we definitely want to be there. Weaverville Community Center, they've made themselves available to us. Right now they're a little bit of a distribution center, but they'll move their operations to make sure that we have priority there once we start voting. The Wesley Grant Center is also a distribution center, but they're saying we can be there too. We'll have a separate room, separate area. We can have a separate door. They have power as well, and and that is our in lieu of being here. So that would be that criteria. The West Asheville Library, obviously, still available, still would be, and they also have power, so we would be there as well. Now here's where we said 10 sites. So here's where we are getting a little bit, where we'd like the board I brought you a little bit of a change here. So when I spoke to UNCA, because we were supposed to use the Highsmith, the campus is basically on lockdown right now. Yeah, they're on lockdown. And so you have to pass through security to get into campus. They do own a building across from the campus. It's on W.T. Weaver. It's the old Mayheck building.
Yep.
And they're offering that building to us. So we've got a couple of choices. We can be on the bottom or the second floor, whichever. We will be in that building. tons of parking. Well, anyways, and then of course, we still have the North Asheville Library, that's still available. So let's go to the next slide, just wanna show you the difference between the two sites. So the UNCA site, all that yellow is parking around the building. It is fabulous as far as parking goes. It is a larger voting enclosure, so the space would be larger, but it is a new location. It is between Broadway and Merriman, so, and it's right off WT Boulevard. You know, we would have to obviously put lots of signs, but we could direct people to this location, plenty of parking. They even have porta johns already out front. This site does have electricity, no water, but it does have internet. So that would be. The North Asheville Library, it's available too. It does have less parking. It does have a smaller voting enclosure room inside there. But we've used it before, something that we can still consider as well. And so I am proposing that we choose between one of these two for the North Asheville area.
Deputy Director Fox, a quick question. Do we have an update on the status of the renovation work at the North Asheville Branch Library?
I do not. I am assuming that has been put on hold.
I'm assuming so too, considering there's
Yeah.
a whole lot more important renovation that needs to
Correct.
occur.
But I can double check on that if that's even being.
Well, that said, I mean, I go by it almost every single day, and it does not seem to be open right now. I fully anticipate power being restored, but you know,
No water.
realistically, I don't think they're going to open without water,
Correct.
which might be a golden opportunity for us. And the only reason I mention that is it is a whole lot easier for community members to find the North Asheville Branch Library, which has been used numerous times, than a new building on W.T. Weaver Boulevard.
That is correct.
Actually, just please, no. You can raise your hand, you can ask to be recognized by the chair, but you're gonna have to wait, because we're having a discussion here right now. Thank you very much. And I just derailed my train of
I know.
thought.
Here's where I'm coming from as far as UNCA.
Yeah.
Why I am more partial to that one, as you can tell.
I can tell.
I can tell. It
Marvelous
it will
parking.
allow us to increase capacity.
That's
So
important.
that means, I want to put as many voting machines in there, it will, we can process more people, and then just the sheer parking to take in that
Right,
capacity.
and I understand the limitations on both
Yeah.
the physical size of the room at the library as well as the capacity of the parking lot. So,
Yep.
thank you, I'm very sensitive to that. I did have one more little question related to this. If I understand this proposal, you're gonna single shift workers during early voting?
No, we're
You're-
still
you're-
gonna have two shifts.
You're still gonna have two shifts?
Yes. This is 7 days a week. I want people not to.
I understood, but when
Yeah.
I saw that it was 9 to 5.
Yeah,
That's our
yeah.
standard shift.
So they would do probably a more like a 5.
A 9 to 1, 1 to 5 thing.
Exactly. And
Okay.
then, of course, the time before and after to get the site ready to open, and
Sure.
then the after.
And the afterwards.
There's always gonna be more time before and after, so.
Always.
yeah.
Well,
And
I'd like to mention that
then there's the
also
handoff.
during the fact, since all of us are still dealing with the water situation, it gives
Yeah.
our employees more time at home to deal
True.
with their own issues.
To
too.
deal with reality?
Yeah.
Yes. What clothes do I wear? What clothes is clean, Do I wear a hat because
No,
my
no, no,
hair,
no, no. The question is just what clothes do I wear? I don't worry about the clean part at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, but thank you, that's a great observation. Director Duncan?
I just wanted to kind of back up and have a little broader statement here to couch some of our decisions, and I'm just making guesses. I don't know what voters will do, but we're seeing an increase in absentee. I think that early voting will probably be our most popular voting method. We
Yeah.
might see a similar pattern to what happened in COVID, where we had a large amount of absentee. Most people voted early voting, and then election day was lower than normal. Again, we don't know what people will do, but we've had some, disaster situations in the past, and that was the pattern then.
The obvious question for me, though, is if both sites are available, why don't we use them both?
Resources.
Yeah, that's what I figured. but I just
Resources, because
thought I'd
that
bring
would
it up.
be, 2 sets of, water for the work, porta johns,
Yeah.
2 sets of, and so that's why, yeah.
No.
It's
Thank
just
you.
the limited resources that we're working with.
I'm just,
And Mr. Quinn, I'd like to,
Mike, please.
thank you. And Mr.
Everyone
Quinn-
wants to hear.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to
Yeah.
hear, my friend.
That's right, like, yeah, Hutton. I am concerned we're cutting down on our rural sites.
Yeah.
So, I really wouldn't want to double up in North Asheville. But I would like
Oh,
to
I
know
understand
what
that.
the nice people in North Asheville would prefer. I mean, what is going to encourage them to come out? I greatly appreciate the capacity issues, but I'd like to know from the point of view of your basic North Asheville voter, who I kind of think of Jake Quinn as being your basic North Asheville voter.
I thought it was Glenn Schultz.
Glenn Schultz, so these are the two, we're heavily represented by North Asheville here. So, but I'd like to know, where do you think the people in your neighborhood, and I include the students in this, where do they want to vote? Where do they want to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, capacity is important, but where do these?
It
What really matters is where do they want to vote?
And you heard my exchange with Deputy Director Fox. I mean, I'm a North Asheville library partisan.
Well, and that's where you've been in the past, and it's easy
Exactly.
enough to say to
But-
everybody,
But I am acutely familiar with the struggles that we have had at that site, whether it's the size of the room, the size of the parking lot, or the behavior of people out in the parking lot. It can be contentious. Authorities have been called in the past, and we'd rather not see that. And it may well be that that former Mayheck facility on WT Weaver Boulevard would be perfect.
it might be a new thing to start, but what's most hospitable?
Right. What is going to generate the greatest participation? That's what I want. I want everybody in the county who's eligible to vote. And I really appreciate the work that staff has done on this and all the collaboration they've done with other departments to gather the information to try to sift through it all and figure out what makes sense. But the bottom line is we've got to get everybody in this county who's eligible to vote, wants to vote. And that is our objective, plain and simple. You've heard it from me many, many times about this performance measure. We got one performance measure, participation. I was hoping against hope that we were going to beat that 78.5% that we did in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. I was determined to do 80% this time, and it's going to be tough under the circumstances, but I appreciate the fact that staff is taking into account all these very important practical considerations as they put our revised plans together, because we all want to get maximum participation.
I just had one question for Nagy. Based on the number of, I guess this question for Nagy, maybe Karen Ray, but based on the number of poll workers you've got available now, what percentage of the early voting poll worker population do you currently have? I'm just curious. I know that'll change, but.
Karen, it's right here.
So your question was what percentage are available?
Well, what percentage, I mean, given the number of poll workers for early voting that you need, what percentage do you have in place that you know about now? I know that's going to change, but I'm just curious.
Of the people that we hired originally for the 14 sites, we have about 2/3 of them definitely confirmed. Some we can't reach, and a few have said no.
And coincidentally, 10 is almost 2/3 of 14. So your staffing is kind of working on that basis. Although I do believe that we're going to need like one additional staffer each site, just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of there just seems to be a little confusion in the community these days. And having somebody there to hold the hands of voters who need the assistance would
Absolutely, so we
be
can,
helpful.
we would make those 10 sites, add the extra
Yeah.
people, just to help with,
Make it go
curbside.
smoothly.
We expect, a greeter, we've got to have somebody at the DS200 tabulate, so we.
Maybe settle something out in the parking lot, who knows? Yeah.
Are we putting in 2 cents now?
Please.
Well, I think Nagy has one more slide.
No,
Okay.
that's it.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Okay.
I
So
just
Felt
had,
that way.
I just had
It's
one more,
just a recap.
one more question for Nagy, and this may have already been covered, but in terms of getting out information about the, if we agree with the, go with the UNCA Health and Counseling Center, the way that the public would be notified is by media for early voting, okay?
Yep.
Media
We would-
only.
Right, we would update our
as
website.
well as the
Yeah, we
website,
would
yeah.
update our website, make sure that that's up to date, because right now it's not, it still has our original plan. So we would update our website as best we could, as quickly as we could, and then, of course, Corrine would be doing the briefings with the county. Now they're doing them daily at 11. She would be on there and then just getting it out to the, the parties, the chairs, precinct chairs, and all that kind of, just getting that word
So,
out.
so it'd be
and-
on the television station, WLOS.
Correct.
And how would you, I mean, obviously, there's 2 or 3 radio stations around Buncombe County that have been very engaged in getting
Yes,
information
yeah.
out.
Radio.
But how would you pick the radio stations? Would you just contact all of them, or how would that work?
There's already a pretty good stream of communication through the radio stations they've combined. We have Cassie Day here, our PIO. They're very hooked into the entire emergency operations communication, so we would hook into that network. Social media also has been, we can post on our social media pages. And the other thing is that we would have signage at the locations, the original locations, to help everybody know where
Where to
the new
go.
locations are too. So there'll be some physical things as well. While I have the mic, while I'm leaning over the table towards the mic, I just wanted to give you a few more pieces of information. First, the Black Mountain Library and Fairview were damaged. Those have been prioritized by the county for repair, and there's already contracts in place to get those repaired. So Black Mountain had flooding, Fairview had some building damage. There was not building damage to the room that we're using at Fairview Library, and we already have permission to use that. But repairs are underway, and they should be done by the 14th. So Black Mountain had some flood damage in there, but we're confident that we can still use those spaces.
Good.
And then the other resource that we have is Devin created the map that is by Stephen Aceto, so that you're able to see the spread of the locations, if that's helpful to you.
Just like the other side.
Oh, I think one just has a topo map and the other has a road map on it.
Yeah, this-
But it has road closures on there. It's kind of the things that we were using to help us decide what to propose to you. So we were making sure that the sites were accessible, so we got the best road closure data that we could get. It's not current, and that changes.
Yes.
It changes all the time. But it might help us understand. We also have the orange on there is the flood zones. That's not where it flooded. We don't have access to the actual flood areas. We don't have access to that, but we do have the flood zone, which was the 100-year flood zone, and it was pretty close. So that can helped us make this proposal for you. And then the intel that we got from General Services on power and water and things like that.
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Aceto.
Back to the notice to media that Glenn raised. We have a new notice requirement. Reasonable efforts to post notice at as many disaster shelters and other places where disaster relief is provided to the general public within the county as possible. So Black Mountain has turned into a disaster relief provision. It's extraordinary. So what is your plan to identify where and how to post? And
and also how to document your posting plan.
So that, again, we will hook into our, do you want to talk on, Cassie?
Yeah, please.
I'm Cassie Day.
No, Ms. Day, come on up, grab a mic, because all the good folks at home want to hear what you have to say too. Thank you.
I'll just use yours.
You might wanna use
Yes,
this
sir.
one.
So our Emergency Operations Center has a direct line to working with all of the disaster assistance sites, whether it's our points of distribution or FEMA assistance sites. So we can get these information to all of those sites.
Okay, and Cassie, there's a specific posting requirement, and I think of like service of process, that kind of thing. So, so I would hope that consideration is given to exactly where it's going to be and be consistent. And also, perhaps Kurt could come up with a form that could be used as in the form of an affidavit when something gets posted, because it looks like any change we make here requires this publication at the site as possible. So so that we can come up with a record of having done so and in a consistent and fair way. Anyway, it's a formal notice requirement.
So in addition to our
Whatever you do.
signage and lists.
Exactly,
we have a
and the
formal
posting on the
notice and
website
an
and all the
affidavit.
things that you're accustomed to doing. This is brand new. Nobody's really figured out how to do this. There's no real standard for it.
No, I think that what we could do is possibly, I agree with Mr. Aceto, is that we could have somebody go out there, actually post the sign, and then put an affidavit basically stating that they have posted the sign at location X, and then we would have a record of every disaster site where signage has been posted.
Yeah, and how you do that. I mean, what is a disaster relief site? Where do you, maybe they have a place to post notices, and people are communicating with each other there. So, it's a formal requirement, just.
Are we looking at the possibility of disaster relief sites that are community-based? Churches and places that are delivering supplies,
The resolution allows for that. I think our board, there's a lot happening in Buncombe County, so our
Yeah.
board would need to decide where to use our resources.
Okay.
Right, and as we pursue a discussion of the topic, we're going to need more information than we
Yeah,
currently
this is kind
have
of
available,
vague.
so.
I mean, as many places as possible. Goodness gracious, what does that mean? So it does mean that we'll have to come up with some kind of a consistent thread as to where we choose and where we post. But this gets back to Kurt giving us something that whoever's posting can refer to, and that's why we have an attorney.
Well, and I'm guessing that the county has a list of facilities that people can go to for shelter, for whatever.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
I want to look to see what the county has and take advantage of that to the extent.
Yeah,
we're
certainly, we've already
able.
got a publication list. I mean, we've already got a list of sites.
Right.
And if we post with reference to that,
Right.
I think we're bulletproof.
Yeah, we should be okay. Alrighty, did anyone else have any questions? Ms. Breen?
Well, based on the plan that has been given to us, since I've been on the board, one of the things that we've done each and every time we start talking about early lighting sites is looking for a North Asheville alternative. We've been doing it every single time. We've dealt with the issues at North Asheville Library. People know it's there, but there are also issues with parking, issues with getting in and out, just issues. And even now, we're wondering, what about the renovations? Will it be available? Since obviously voting is going to be different this time, I think everybody realizes it's going to be different. It could be an opportunity to find an alternative site, publicize it well, and start making that move to a new site.
I don't know about making a move to a new site, but I do think it's important that we make it as easy as possible for the people in that portion of the county to vote.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that Deputy Director Fox has done a pretty good job
Yeah.
of describing the benefits of using the site on WT Weaver Boulevard. And we know that there's still uncertainty about the North Asheville Branch Library
Yes.
as a facility. I'd rather go with the sure thing than the maybe.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, I'm a North Asheville voter.
Maybe this is an ongoing,
Nah,
possibility of
nah,
an ongoing, maybe.
We'll talk about that some other time.
possibility.
I'm not making any commitment in that direction. I'll have to tell you the
Possibility.
truth, in 2028, I'm hoping that we get back to the status quo ante. And, 14 sites and good distribution throughout the county. But we gotta play the hand that was dealt this time in 2024, even if they dealt it so late in the process.
Does Sally have anything to add?
Sally Stein? Hello. I'm wondering if, or the board, or your colleagues are wondering if you have any observations or questions, comments about the early voting plan or any of its elements. And there might be communications malfunction too.
be.
It's been happening. All right, is there any more discussion of the staff proposal for revising the early voting plan? I will, and Mr. Aceto, please help me with the wordsmithing on this. Does everyone have a copy of the draft resolution,
I do not.
I do not.
resolution revising the early voting sites in Buncombe County?
Maybe I do. Let me dig.
It's 2024-09?
It looks like this.
This is the resolution. I need the draft.
That one, right,
This thing.
Oh, okay.
Mr.
Great.
Mr. Aceto, if you can go look at the sixth whereas clause on the first page. Whereas, based on the assessment, a number of sites are, shall we say, unusable based on damages to the building or inability to access the site?
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's perfect. I think that's, I mean, that's
Let's
magic
use
word.
their word.
That's the magic word. Magic word is not unavailable, it's unusable. I mean, this, we're talking about the State Board of Elections, for crying out loud. That's a big deal.
Put the or, it's unusable because of damages or inaccessibility. Inaccessibility makes it just as unusable as anything else does.
Can I make change, are you gonna make the changes?
Either one, as long as
Here.
I know exactly what I'm writing.
Anyway, it was just a little wordsmithy
No, that's fine.
revision. But as Mr. Aceto noted earlier in the meeting, unusable is a term that was used by the state board in their resolution granting us this additional flexibility, so it probably makes sense to use their
That's a
vocabulary.
lot stronger word than unavailable. Unavailable implies that you can move from available to conditionally available to unavailable to available, and unusable is,
It's like,
it's like, what part of unusable do you not understand? Yeah.
all right. So with that one revision, Director Duncan, do you have something to add?
We're just making sure, we need to revise we had every day from 9 to 5, but we need to add that the last Saturday has to end at 3. So we're making that revision.
Good.
And then number 6, it says either or, so whichever one.
Yeah,
y'all-
we need to choose
Choose the
between,
site.
yeah. And the other, information about the North Asheville and UNCA is, North Asheville is a little more north than UNC, than the UNCA location. And, I think part of, one of our criteria is making sure that we're spread out. So take that into consideration as well.
They're all virtually equidistant from Weaverville Community Center, so, which would be which would tend to be the alternative for North Asheville voters, other that or the Grant Center.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Schultz, why don't you talk us into something?
It has been noted that the draft resolution does offer an either or, and we need to choose which. My preference, and this is just discussion, I'm not making a motion here. My preference is to use the site on W.T. Weaver Boulevard per the staff's recommendation. I've had to referee that stuff at the North Asheville Library. It's not fun.
Mr. Quinn, I'm ready to make that motion.
Mr. Schultz, did you have any?
I agree with that. I mean, basically what you're doing is combining two locations, the
Right.
North Asheville and UNC location, and they're not that far from each other. And I think it's likely you would get a better turnout with the UNC location, given the parking, so I'm all for
Well,
that.
that's what I'm after.
you
Better
ready for the
turnout
motion?
at every site. Yes, please, Mr. Seal.
Okay, there's a hand.
Director Duncan, did you have an observation?
Yes, I just want, I want to make sure that we're having thorough discussion, so I wanted to make sure that we're also recognizing that we've recommended a similar decision between the Friendship Center and Wesley Grant. So we recommended in the plan to use Wesley Grant. Because it's our in lieu of site, staff has a much stronger recommendation in that location. But I just want to make sure that the board is
Yes.
the board is on board with that decision as well. It's our in lieu of site. It's been a site for a long time. The
Right.
Friendship Center is newer and has lower turnout. We love all of these sites. We wish that we could have them all, but we have to make some hard choices. And I want to make sure that that's recognized by the board.
The Friendship Center just doesn't get many voters. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the fact of the
it-
matter.
yeah.
It's a great location to vote. There's plenty of parking. It's a wonderful location, but it just doesn't get many voters.
Yeah, I think it would need to be used continuously for a period of time to boost that usage rate. Does anyone else have any more observations? Before Mr. Aceto has made a motion to approve this resolution. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on the change on number 6.
Yeah, I'll
Right, based
I'll
on the
recite
change in number
changes
6,
Just to be sure. just
And,
to be
and
certain.
making sure that we've got that W.T. Weaver Boulevard site and the Wesley Grant Center site of Friendship Center. But before I open this to a vote, and I apologize, because this is probably not proper conduct, but I've seen hands go up out in the audience. And before we commit to this, I want to make sure that if somebody has something to share, or if they've got something on their mind, this is the opportunity to do it. I realize, I've asked some of you, put your hand down. I'll get to you. This is that time. If there's something that you would like to add to help us more fully consider our options for the early voting plan, now is the time. Okay, I see a hand back there. Could you please identify yourself and let us know?
My name is Robin Lively Summers, and I live in North Asheville, and this discussion is going the way I would recommend it as a caretaker of a disabled person that has to deal with getting them to early voting and/or on the voting day, because he just loves to vote on voting day, even though I tell him how inconvenient that is. To move it away from the North Asheville Library would be a godsend.
Thank you. That's valuable input. Ms. Hainer?
Thank you for recognizing me, Jake. I have been a chief judge at the North Asheville Library, and having been there for many years and worked that area, that precinct, it is staggering the arguments that are out in the parking lot. I cannot even begin to tell you what the vendors that we have and the customers that are trying to assess the nail shop or everybody else. They are so angry, and they have car accidents there, and there's just lots of cars that can't get in and out, and then they get very, very frustrated. It's probably one of the hardest sites to work as a chief judge, and I'm all in favor for W.T. Weaver.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I'm Ronnie Friedman.
Hey, Ronnie.
We've done a lot of tabling, giving out the cards that show the early voting site. Yeah.
Please throw them out, folks.
So
Throw them out,
I
absolutely.
was an early voting poll worker, and I went to 3 different sites for my term at the last election, and one of them was the North Library, which I found inside to be a very friendly, wonderful place. And the people were very familiar with it. My concern is, it's too late. My concern is, people are gonna be planning to go there because they're not gonna hear the media, they're not gonna get the news. I would like you to consider having both sites, so that then you can ease them into the new site on the next real election that isn't during a disaster, and people will be familiar, and then we can remind them how easy it was to park there, and that's why we're moving there.
Thank you. And I appreciate your confidence. In 2020, we said the next election wouldn't have a disaster. And look what happened. It got worse. Ms. Klein.
Yes, I'm Kathy Klein, the chair of the Buncombe County Democrats. And we plan, first thing tomorrow, if this passes today, to redo all of our literature. We're gonna make sure it's posted on all of our sites, on our website, and in all of our communications with our people, the new locations. I'm not at all concerned about people being confused, especially when you are having other plans for announcing this on so many other locations. And you also said that you would be posting a sign at each location as well. So, and the W.T. Weaver site, to me, it's got tons of parking. We're not gonna have the arguments out in the parking lots. There's a lot of really positive reasons to do this.
Thank you. Ms. Amos.
Yeah, I'm Diane Amos. I'm precinct chair for 71.1, and the North Asheville is part of my precinct. And I will tell you, a lot of my voters hate that site. And they are North Asheville.
Wow.
And they were used to being flexible anyway, because it went from North Asheville to Redlands Mountain, and then it was back, and then it was back. So I've always communicated with my precinct well about this year, this is where it's gonna be, this year it's gonna be here. So I will do whatever I can to notify my precinct that normally votes there and where it's gonna be. And I would go with Weaver Boulevard as well.
Does anyone else have any comments or observations?
Dr.
Hi.
Maria.
Hi, my name's Audrey Reynolds.
Hey, Audrey.
Wore my best clean shirt for y'all today.
Yes.
I just want to say, I hope it's appropriate to say, I came here partly because I was wondering if I could become a poll worker. I know that there are changes, and I wondered if you might address that, if it's something that can legally happen. I do have experience in Texas where I lived prior, just using myself as an example. I also don't have a job right now. So, I hear resources being an issue, and I certainly understand that, and I just wondered if you might say something about that, and where do I go to sign it?
Well, I'll leave that to Director Duncan.
So you saw Karen Ray speak earlier. She is our recruiter, so she will address the. You can talk with her about poll working. One constraint that we have is training and making sure that everyone gets trained. So early voting training is done. We have to turn to election day training if we are going to get done in time. We already lost a week. And we have to, our original plan had 600 workers that we were training. And so we have to, get people in the pipeline that way. So Karen will take names for poll working for election day. That's one day, but that's how that will address. The other resources are, and you can call us at 828-250-4200. Email us at elections@buncombecounty.org. Come to our office and visit our website if you can. But there are other resource restrictions because of not having water and power at sites. We need to make sure that we secure those resources. that is something that the State Board of Elections has been really helpful in so far. So we already put in requests for 10 sites for generators, porta potties, things like that, in the case that this plan would pass, so that we'd make sure that we had those resources if we need them. But those resources are gone locally, gone. And so we're asking for out-of-state assistance for all of those things.
Mr.
All right,
Quinn,
thanks everyone for
I think
their,
had,
others.
David on the corner.
Yes, sir.
Missed him first time around. Make sure he got.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. David Frankel, no comments, I've heard a lot. What a mess, huh? Whatever happened to Ira B. Jones School?
Ira B. Jones is an election day precinct.
Oh, so you-
That's for precinct 22.2. And I drive by it. It looks good. I'm guessing that will be available on election day. I don't know that for certain, but it looks pretty good when I drive by.
Well, I was thinking, of course, for early voting.
Yeah, because suddenly the schools are available, aren't they? I mean, they're normally full of children and students, but right now they're empty. Hopefully they will be full soon.
Mr. Quinn,
Mr. Aceto.
I move.
Thank you.
According to the resolution form that was so skillfully prepared by Mr. Euler and Ms. Duncan and AK, with the following changes. Whereas number 6, change the word unavailable to unusable. In the body of the resolution, number 6A, to affirm that the UNCA Health and Counseling Center will be our 6th site instead of North Asheville Library. That North Asheville Library comes off and UNCA Health comes on in its place. I don't see an alternative number 9, Wesley Grant, so I assume we don't need to address that. I am seeing that new hours of operation, October 17th to November 2nd, and that is correct. And Mr. Euler?
Yeah, Mr. Cito, to make sure that we're clear, we're gonna have the hours of operation from October 17th through November 1st between the 9 to 5, and then we'll have a separate bullet that says on November 2nd, the hours of operation will be from 9 to 3.
I'll make that my motion. Thank you very much. I see that you, in paragraph 3, you picked up the proper notice standard, the new notice requirements, formal notice requirements according to the State Board's resolution. Thank you very much. And other than that, it ain't broke. Please don't fix it. I make that motion.
All right. Thank you, sir. There is a motion before the board. Does anyone have any questions about the motion? Ms. Steiner, are you with us perchance?
I am.
Oh, thank you. Sally, did you have any questions about the proposed revisions to the early voting plan? Or you
No, I think I feel good about the conversation and everybody's input, so I'm fine.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. The motion is before the board to approve the early voting plan for the general election of 2024 per staff's recommendations with the amendments noted by Mr. Aceto. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
That sounded like aye.
Yeah.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0. Director Duncan, Deputy Director Fox, thank you a ton and a half. I can't believe this got done in such short order. These folks are amazing. Now, unfortunately, they don't get to sleep until like after Christmas or something, but this is just nonstop. This is nonstop. Thank you. And the community, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your input. It's extraordinarily valuable for us, and we appreciate it. And I had no idea that I had been advocating for North Asheville Branch Library for such a long time, pretty much by my lonesome self here. I love that place. But I guess we're going to have to look at it. I've looked for alternatives. I wanted that Rite Aid. I wanted the bank branch. And the for sale sign is down in front of that bank branch. Looks like it's going to be another restaurant or something. All right, well, we've got a new early voting plan. Please, everybody, spread the word. We've had changes, and we've got so many changes happening right now, and that's one of the hardest things in our electoral environment. We change district lines, we change rules, we change everything all the time. Well, now we're changing voting locations. To the extent that you can help us get the word out, it is going to help enormously. Because what's our objective? Maximum turnout.
It's integrity, right?
Hold on.
Yeah.
One question, is the county going to reproduce the postcard size things that have the early voting sites, times and everything? Because I've handed out.
Yeah. Yeah, so have I.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
We probably don't have the time.
We will, yeah, it took, the turnaround time to make things like that is long. So I don't think that our vendor can turn that around. And we had some contact from a vendor that they could turn around 5,000 pieces in 2 weeks. That's too late. So.
2 weeks. Yeah,
Two-
starts next week.
Yeah, great question. Yep, but we will make materials though that we can pass out and
Right.
have everyone print.
Question?
Yes, hi, my name's Annie Lewis, thank you.
Hey, Annie.
If a print vendor can do it sooner, can I put them in touch with you?
Definitely.
Okay, and Mr. Quinn, one more thing.
Mr. Aceto.
Thank you so much for your most able leadership, but I must humbly say that turnout is not the most important thing to me. It's election integrity, because that's in the statute. But by all means, let's get these people out, because I think they
Amen.
really, really want to vote. This is the path
Right.
back to normal.
Amen.
Right here, they want to take control of their lives and go vote. By God, we'll give them a place to vote.
We will.
Great stuff.
We will. Thank you, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will now have an intermission down at 50 Cox Avenue where we will test. Everyone is invited. Our early voting machine, all of our machine testing is open to the public. 50 Cox Avenue is, you know where it is. It's the blue building right across from the bus station. And parking can be a little tough, especially further down the hill near World Central Kitchen and Bear's Barbecue. But just stay up near the top of Cox. You should be okay this time of day. I haven't seen anybody out giving tickets either, so it may be an opportunity. This board is in recess. We will reconvene at 50 Cox Avenue at 5:10 p.m. today. I think that gives us enough time to get down there. And just so y'all know, we plan to come back here after the machine testing. Yes, sir. No.
Will you remind people to sign the guest book if they haven't?
Thank you, AK. Boy, oh boy, you know, you would think that Jake would remember how to do a meeting after 6 years.
17 people online.
Folks, I really can't remember the last time we saw this many people at one of our meetings. And a lot of you probably don't know that we have a guest book that we use as the official record of attendance for this meeting. And if you haven't signed the guest book, I hope you'll do it on the way out, because we just want to record the beauty of this large crowd.
Yeah.
And I will add to this, we have 6 dozen people observing us online today. Wow. People care.
Yeah.
And this is good for everybody. It is great. Thank you so much for coming. Hope to see some of you down at Cox Avenue, and hope to see the real masochists come back with us after that. thank you. That went very well.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate Mr. Oliver's preparation and getting us through that process as expeditiously as possible. Mr. Whitney, is anyone still? No? Well, that you guys are missing a big revelation here, because let me tell you, your voting plan, and I hope everyone is taking the time and making the effort to put their voting plan together. You got to figure out how you're going to do this. Please allow yourself enough time in the voting booth to complete that ballot, because it is long. It is real long. Sample ballots are key. Do your homework. Know what the questions are before the test is presented to you.
What's the paper ballot look like? Both sides, yeah.
I'd show you, but mine's in the car.
Yeah.
My absentee ballot. Anyway. That's right. I can do that now, but I like to vote in person. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, let's do this again.
Would you mind just announcing, since we're online
Yep.
recorded,
Yep.
that the results?
Yeah, we just have reconvened this session, having recessed down at 50 Cox Avenue, the Election Services Warehouse, where we completed machine testing for early voting. We tested numerous express vote machines. We tested numerous tabulators, and in every instance, the hand-eye count matched the machine count. And we voted unanimously to approve the machine testing that we accomplished down at 50 Cox this afternoon. And again, Mr. Oliver's preparation for that was invaluable in helping us get through it expeditiously. Appreciate it greatly. We can't, darn it. And but this meeting is continuing. This meeting is not over. This meeting, I'm sorry, Mr. Tate. We eagerly look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And we're sorry that machine testing did take so long, but as we have noted, the ballots this year are very lengthy, and it took us quite some time to get through it, but we got it done. We thank your staff for staying with us in the eventuality that we would need duplication. We'll probably need it tomorrow.
Yeah.
We hope to see everybody back.
But then it'll allow us to focus directly on it.
Right. Thank you. That is the only order of business for tomorrow, right? Okay. That and adjournment. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we'll recess this meeting at 6:52 and give everybody enough time to get home before the clock strikes 7:30 and it's curfew. Thank you, everybody, for your participation in this lengthy meeting to be continued. Tomorrow at 3:30. We're continuing the meeting. We are in recess until 3:30 tomorrow. The law requires that we handle these absentee ballots at this meeting. This meeting will continue. We would continue this meeting tonight were it not for the curfew. That the curfew, we have to respect the curfew.
So tomorrow isn't a separate meeting?
No, sir. It is the same meeting. And in fact, you will see on your calendar every Tuesday, Wednesday combo is like that. When you see that Wednesday, if necessary, it would just be a continuation of that Tuesday meeting.
It's continuing.
Yes, sir. So we are in recess until 3:30 tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.